Hi, and welcome back to the House of the Stag YouTube channel. Thank you. Thank you so much for your support. We finally reached 1000 subscribers. So, I asked you guys to send over some questions, and you sent a lot of them, and I'm ready to answer them. So, let's jump right into it. Betrayed King asks, Game of Thrones was known for introducing show-only characters and creating amalgamation characters to cover multiple storylines from the books into a singular character. Do you think House of the Dragon will play out similarly? And do you have any thoughts as to where in the story they may implement such characters? Yes, I can see this happening, but not as much as it was happening in Game of Thrones. I think Ryan Condal and the writing team tried to fit in as many characters from Fire and Blood as possible. A great example is Rhea Royce, Daemon's wife. They could have easily gotten rid of her. I mean, Daemon is going to be very busy in Season 1 with Mysaria, Rhaenyra, as well as Laena Velaryon, so they could have gotten rid of Rhea Royce, I feel like. In terms of original characters, well, there's always room for that. I think that a Dragon Keeper character would be quite interesting, especially if you think about what's going to happen down the line in King's Landing. That could definitely be something that they could explore, but it could be anything. As long as it is faithful to the overall story, I don't have any problems with that. But yeah, definitely, I can see this happening. Baziar Strategy asks, how long will young Griff keep the Iron Throne? Also, if he's Aegon the 6th, will that make Jon Snow Aegon the 7th? Well, that entirely depends on if Aegon is actually going to sit on the Iron Throne. If he will sit on the Iron Throne, which I think is going to happen, then I don't see him sitting on that damn thing for all too long, because Daenerys is coming and Euron has his eyes on that throne as well. So it's not going to be easy, and it's not going to be a happy ending for the character. But I see a Dance of the Dragons 2.0 kind of scenario happening. But we'll just have to wait and see. I think Jon being Aegon Targaryen is a show-only thing, because why would Rhaegar name two of his sons Aegon? That wouldn't make much sense. In the show they didn't have young Griff, so they had the freedom to call Jon Aegon, but I think he's going to have a different Targaryen name. I personally would love Jaehaerys or Aemon, but we'll just have to wait and see on this one. Darkstar44 asks, do you think Stannis will conquer the rest of the North in the Winds of Winter? I think so, yeah. I think Stannis is going to win the Battle of Ice and then retake Winterfell. George and I dedicated a whole podcast episode on that exact topic, as well as a discussion with Andy McClay. So if you want more detail on the subject, just check out those videos. I'll link them down in the description below. Hassan asks, do you think they will ever remake Game of Thrones when George is finished with A Song of Ice and Fire? I don't think so, at least not in live action, and I don't really see the appeal here. I mean, we've dedicated years watching this being played by certain actors, watching these characters being played by certain actors. And even though I'm not the biggest Jon Snow fan, I would hate for someone else to play the character other than Kit Harington. Who knows, maybe this works in animated form, and this could be very unique and obviously way more detailed, because they can go all out. They don't have to have a big budget for that, or at least not as big as a live action show. But after George finishes A Song of Ice and Fire, let's just hope we get Winds of Winter, man. I don't really see that happening, to be honest. Dylan Boffa asks, do you think House of the Dragon will release another trailer? I think so, yeah. I mean, they obviously would want to create as much hype as they can, and those trailers are always successful in terms of numbers and gets a lot of attention. And yeah, they usually release 2 or 3 of those bad boys for Game of Thrones. I personally hope they are not as revealing as some of the behind the scenes stuff that we got. I know what's going to happen, but a lot of people don't, and I really don't want them to spoil things just for the sake of hyping it up. I hope that's not the case. Insane Two-Way asks, do you have any hope for Winds of Winter and A Dream of Spring? Yes and no. I think Winds of Winter is pretty realistic. Maybe he splits Winds of Winter up and we have it sooner than later. But A Dream of Spring, man, it's been 11 years since A Dance with Dragons was released, so I don't see A Dream of Spring being released. As much as I hate it, I think that's just the way it is. Jesus Wee asks, if you had to affiliate yourself with any of the great houses, old or new, which one would you join based on the character and moral compass of that family? You know, I mean, yeah, it's obvious. I'm a pretty big House Baratheon fan. And I mean, the channel is called House of the Stag and all. You know this. If you've been following me for a while, You definitely know this. Stannis is my favorite character. I don't know if I would want to be part of a big house. I mean, obviously, it wouldn't be fun to grow up in Flea Bottom or somewhere in the Riverlands and being poor. That wouldn't be too nice, I think. But I think I'd prefer to stay away from that whole conflict. You know, I can probably do without that. So, yeah, I don't know. House Baratheon, forever, always. Paul asks, now that HBO appears to be building up a Westeros cinematic universe with all the TV shows, do you think a movie taking place in this world would work? And if so, for which storyline? I think it works best in television, but of course, why wouldn't a movie work? If it's not as big in scale and if you don't have to build these characters up too much, then I think something like a Robert's Rebellion series could be quite interesting, or the new Jon Snow thing. If you're really going for that, if that's what you want to do, I think it works best as a limited thing. But in the great scheme of things, I think it works best in television. Like, imagine you do something for the first Blackfire Rebellion. You wouldn't get as much detail on Bloodraven as you would have in a television series. You have much more time to properly flesh out these characters, and just gives them more time to really do these characters justice. But yeah, a movie can work. Let me know down below what story you would like to see as a movie. On to the next one. Josh Hacker asks, this may sound odd, but I'm curious about what scenes you guys would most like to change. It could be scenes from the books, the show, or both. It doesn't have to be a large change either. It could be as small as changing a specific detail that you think makes more sense. Now that one is awesome. I think we should do a whole episode of the podcast about this topic. But yeah, if I had to pick two, one for the show, one for the books. At the top of my head, I think we all agree that most of the sex scenes in the books are quite cringeworthy. Like, I could have lived without Mirish Swamp or Fat Pink Mast or any of the stuff, really. In the show, I'm not going to go with the usual and talk about season 8, 7, 6, 5 or whatever, so let's pick one from season 2. I would have really liked for Renly to have the peach. It's just so meaningful. It represents how sweet life can be. Something that my boy Stannis will probably never get to know. Yeah, I think it's a pity that they cut it. But anyways, I think we should do a whole podcast episode about it. I could go on and on. It's a great question. Thank you, man. Kevin asks, if you could rewrite one character from the entire A Song of Ice and Fire saga, who would it be and how would you do it? Now, okay, who the fuck am I, right? I am not an author, so who am I to judge? But if I had to do just one, then I think we could have done without a lot of Quentin Martell stuff. I'm not one of those guys that believe he's still alive. I think he's toast. He got barbecued. I don't think he's coming back. I don't really see how that benefits the story. So that, of course, results in a lot of, I wouldn't say wasted time, but I would have preferred to see more of Barristan or Ariana Mattel, and yeah, if it had to be one thing, one character, then it would be Quentin Martell. Taisha asks, do you think Sansa and Tyrion will ever reunite? How do you think they will react upon seeing each other again? Yeah, they could. They could, but they would have changed so much that it would be actually quite interesting. It would actually be quite interesting to see the conversation that they would have. I mean, Tyrion is going more and more villain, if you want. Sansa, I think, is going to be, by the time that they could meet, I think she's going to be a Littlefinger 2.0, probably already having outplayed him. Yeah, it could be interesting. I don't think it's gonna be a, oh, wow, look at you, tell me about your journey kind of scenario. I think it would be quite dark, maybe even on opposite sides. Who knows, but yeah, could be interesting. Young Wolf 24 asks, who do you think Robb named as his heir? I think it's Jon Snow. I mean, the source material is quite straightforward in that they had a conversation between Catelyn and Robb where he was telling her that this might be his plan. The scene then cuts out and we don't really know the full, we don't really know what is going to happen, but I still think it's Jon Snow. If you look at his situation, there are not many people that he could possibly choose. He could have chosen Catelyn, but then again, she's with him the entire time, so if both die, then what? And I mean, that's exactly what happened, but yeah. And maybe we'll get our answers through the Lady Stoneheart storyline. Let's see. Clara asks, Who do you think wrote the pink letter, and how much impact will it have on the Battle of Ice? I can see different scenarios here. I'm leaning towards Mance Rayder, but yeah, it's safe to say that whoever wrote the pink letter has a lot of information, and Mance would fit right into this category. Ramsay, on the other hand, well, there's a lot of red flags. Doesn't entail the skin, which is a signature move for Ramsay. He refers to him as bastard, which Mance Rayder does like 1,000 times, and some people claim that it's Bowen Marsh in an attempt to root Jon out, then others claim that it was Stannis himself. Yeah, there are a few candidates. In terms of the impact on the Battle of Ice, I don't see it having that much of an impact, because let's say Mance wrote the letter, then only the few people at Castle Black know about Stannis supposedly being dead. Meanwhile, we have Hosty and Frey and the others going for Stannis. One thing that would heavily support Stannis being the one behind the pink letter would be if he uses a fake out in an attempt to get Jon to come north. Man, it's been so many years and there's still so much that's fascinating about this letter. But by the time this book comes out, it really is just Ramsay, and we all over-analyze this thing and it's whatever. But yeah, that's just kind of where I'm standing at right now. Let me know down below, who do you think wrote the pink letter? Sweet Film Talk asks, 3 artists, dead or alive, you'd want to see live. That's an interesting one. I mean, it's quite difficult. I've seen pretty much everyone I wanted to see, except for Kendrick Lamar and Frank Ocean. I would love to see those two. Haven't seen these yet. I saw my favorite artist, Tyler the Creator, just 3 weeks ago. Actually quite difficult. But if I had to pick 3, I would choose Chris Cornell in whatever form. Audio Slave, Soundgarden, just solo, whatever. Would have loved to see the man. Absolute legend. Yeah, then I'll just go for Kendrick Lamar and Frank Ocean. Yeah, those are the 3. Farouk asks, what's the most underrated aspect of A Song of Ice and Fire? Do you think anything from A Song of Ice and Fire or Game of Thrones will ever be as popular as it was pre-2019? Well, the thing that I appreciate the most about it are the very realistic characters, great characters, the human conflict, but that's hardly underrated. So I would say it's just the sheer size of that world. It's just so detailed, and we have thousands of years of history, and I think that might be quite underrated. Well, will it ever be as successful as it was back in the day? I think it could be, but this obviously depends on House of the Dragon's success. Let's say House of the Dragon does great and they actually go for a Jon Snow thing. Oh yeah, that's a good one. If they go for the Jon Snow thing, that I think they would be pretty successful. Overall, I'd say they have to do a lot of work before it's back to winning 200 million Emmys every year and being universally loved. Maybe. Omkar asks, how hyped are you for House of the Dragon? Actually quite a lot, and it didn't start like that. When HBO first announced that they were going to do this whole Blood Moon stuff, I was ready to say goodbye to this franchise, and I really mean that. Like, I used to have a fan page on Instagram, and I didn't post for, I don't know how long, months. I just left it behind. Well, and then fast forward 3 years, and I have a YouTube channel dedicated to A Song of Ice and Fire. It's a crazy thing, but yeah, I'm pretty hyped to see this show. I think in terms of writing, this show might actually be pretty damn good. Moving on. Anshuman asks, what are your opinions on the recent James Hibbert articles? Yeah, I've read those, and I plan on making a video about that cinematic universe part. Like, there are some juicy bits in there, for sure, yeah. That whole show that was dedicated to kind of like all of the 7. Like, they would have been real people, and God knows what else they had been planning. But yeah, I want to make a video on a few shows that I'd love to see. I made something like that a couple of months ago, but I probably mentioned it before. I can't watch a single video of any of these. I think they are all just hot garbage up until, like, I don't know, 4 or 3 months ago. But yeah, I want to do a better job. Maybe I'll do a video on that. Apart from that, well, of course, everyone bitched about that whole just another bunch of white guys line from Ryan Condal, and it's pretty sad that this one kind of took away from the overall press thing that they had going for them. in my opinion, people fail to understand how these articles happen. Like, it's just two guys sitting in a hotel lobby talking about it just casually while having, I don't know, a beer or something or coffee, just chilling, saying dumb shit. And yeah, for a guy that works on such a big show, this was probably a bit dumb to say because, people will make thousands of YouTube videos calling the show woke because, just not for white people. Like, I see people talking about how this show is not for white people. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Who the fuck says this is for white people? Like, who came out and said, yo, you're white, you can't watch this shit? The show about mostly white people. Like, it's a bit insane, but it's just how the internet works, right? It's headlines, headlines, headlines. I mean, there's entire YouTube channels that are just dedicated to bashing on this sort of stuff. I think that was just perfect for them. They saw this and probably went like, yeah, whew, let's get some money, man. Let's get the bag. It's crazy. It baffles me how people can be so reactionary, especially like the people that are the loudest didn't care for this thing for months and months and months, and we had a lot of news about it, especially about Ryan Condal. It was right there. He kept talking about the show. George talked about the show, how he saw episodes and how great they were. It's just a bit sad. But yeah, no, I won't make a video about that topic because I don't think it's worth mentioning, man. I focus on the story, and everything I heard about the story, everything I've seen so far, is really damn good, and I don't take these things too seriously. And now, of course, I'll admit that wasn't the best thing to say for someone that should know exactly that the reaction is going to be, well, like it was, but man, come on. It's not a deal breaker for me. Don't take this stuff too seriously, man. It's not worth it to throw a whole tantrum about this sort of stuff, so yeah. Snehal asks, you are Robert Baratheon right after he won the crown. How are you going to govern the realm? Well, I would just be chilling. Pretty much the same thing as he did, but nah, I'm joking. But if I were to be Robert, I think starting to actually attend the small council meetings would be a great thing, right? Just in general, be more aware of the whole situation that surrounds you. Yeah. Once again, this is probably too short of an answer, but Robert didn't give two fucks about anything, and that is exactly what allowed the Lannisters to rise in power. Other than that, I don't know. What's my tax policy? Are you asking me that? I don't have an answer for that one, but yeah, I don't know. Just it's not hard to do a better job than Robert. So yeah. Nicholas asks, which three plotlines from House of the Dragon are you most excited for? Three things. Definitely, and I keep saying this, the slower paced scenes, so everything that has to do with small council, with intrigues, backstabbing, political drama, and then we have all of the rivalries. Daemon against Otto Hightower, Rhaenyra against Alicent. I don't know if I can boil it down to 3 points, because I think it really will be more complex than the later seasons of Game of Thrones, and that's something that I would absolutely love. I can go in each and every direction right now. It's can talk an hour about this, but that's not something that we will do today, so let's just end it here. And that is all I have for today. Thank you once again so much for your support in the last couple of months. It really means a lot. I love making videos for you guys. It became my favorite hobby, and this transition from Instagram to YouTube wasn't easy. I didn't know anything. I didn't even have a computer. I didn't know how to edit. I didn't know how to set anything up. It was quite rough. But yeah, in terms of future content, I just want to build a community where everyone is welcome. Not everyone needs to know everything. I really don't want that. I want everyone to have a good time on this channel. For me personally, I will never come up with theories the way a guy like Preston Jacobs does it, or have the biggest and highest production ever. It's all a learning process, but I want to build a place where we can all just come together and talk about these episodes, talk about the latest news. It's very interesting for me to see what guys who don't know anything about the source material have to say about these episodes, just as it is the other way around, of course. I just want this to be very relaxed and laid back, and I'm going to make mistakes here and there. I mispronounce stuff, I get dragon colors wrong, and that's just the way it is, man. And I think there's also a little speech barrier now. I obviously have that German accent that you can hear, but I still love to make these videos. I love A Song of Ice and Fire. I love everything about it. I love this world that George created. And making these videos also helped me through a tough time a couple of months ago, and connecting with you guys really helped me. I came out of this as a better person, and this channel really had a big part to play in that, and you guys, of course. So once again, thank you so much. I really look forward to House of the Dragon, to experience this series with you, and I have a lot of plans for that. Me and George are obviously going to have multiple episodes of the podcast for you. There's gonna be a viewer Q&A every week, a episode review every week, and a lot of other stuff that I'm working behind the curtains. But anyway, I'm done talking now. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one as always, and yeah, take care and see you later.